Hello, hello, hello. We are making a video, the baby dog and I together on a beautiful, beautiful afternoon. And it is very, very overcast outside and very windy, but it is nice. And it's been very warm here at this house. Very nice. It was actually almost 70 degrees for the last 2 days, and today it's 60 degrees. So, but we don't have the heater on, but I have to put my winter gear on, my entire winter gear. So, and I have a disco light on there. It looks very, very nice, very pretty with my artwork. I love it. So, I love those lamps. They are absolutely stellar. Those are actually garden lamps that have like a spike on the bottom. A spike thing, like a spade or something, and that spades into the earth for like half a foot, and so it anchors in, and then the lamp can shine up like this, like for a party or something. It's pretty neat. I love those. Those are amazing. I don't think we're gonna be using them outside. We'll just use those inside the house and shine it on the ceiling and on the wall and on my artwork. That works very well. So I want to talk about the inwardness meditation process, because I want to explain to people what samadhi means and what equanimity means, and Maitri and Maitreya. And who is the Maitreya? People have different views on who the Maitreya is and was, and how many incarnations, and which one of these many different appearances on earth in history. So that is up for debate, obviously, but whatever Helena Petrovna Blavatsky says, I am definitely on board with her, so 100%, because she is Gautama Buddha. She is one of his incarnations. That's why she was fearless, because she doesn't think about fear. She thinks about justice and protecting innocent beings, instead of cowering in the corner and thinking about, oh, they might come after me or something. No. So her mind is outward onto others, for others, thinking, living for others, like Donald Trump and Elon Musk are. Okay, and they're very, very advanced souls, very advanced. And obviously the corporate mafia is going to try, they're trying to persuade the public that they are just like them, right? They're trying to project onto them and stuff like this, because they can't even wrap their heads around how someone who is a genius and a billionaire could be doing good and risking their reputation and risking everything, their money and their lives and everything, to save the world. They can't wrap their heads around the mafia. Okay. So they're probably never going to understand what that mental state is like that Donald Trump and Elon Musk have. Okay. The mental state of Maitri and Samadhi and justice and helping, making the world better. Okay, so the mafia people are beginner souls. They can't wrap their heads around it. It's very difficult for them. Okay? I'm not blaming them. I'm just trying to sort it out. I'm trying to organize it better for whoever watches my videos to understand this better. How does this come about, What is this all about? Who is this person about? Who is that person about? What are they thinking? I'm just intuitively guessing on what they're thinking, but I see that Donald Trump and Elon Musk are thinking for the world, to save the world, to make the world safe. Not just the United States, but the whole planet. To make it safe for all living beings. Okay, because they care. They deeply, deeply care. They infinitely care about all living beings. That's the truth. I'm somewhat halfway in between. I'm somewhat halfway through the soul journey. But I think most people are beginner souls. That's what I see. Not all beginner souls are mafia collaborators. But a lot of them are, because they think in terms of whatever pays the best will be done, right? They can't even, they don't see things into the horizon. They don't see things even for their own lives into the horizon. They only think, right now, I want this amount of money. And they'll just hold their nose and do their job, right? And that's where the problem is. That's why the world is suffering. That's why. That is precisely why. So people go to war, they go to the military because they think they can get a career out of this, or this will give them enough money, and this will give them what they needed, healthcare and school and so on. But they don't think further that they're going to be hurting others. Okay? And when you're hurting others, you're hurting yourselves. This is the truth. Okay. I woke up thinking about this today. And then baby dog and I went outside and we laid down on the grass on all the way at the end of the garden. It was beautiful, looking up into the trees and getting grounded and thinking about all of this. Always thinking about this. I'm praying a lot to the blue God, the infinite cosmos, every day, day and night. I wake up at night, go to the bathroom, I pray to the blue God, every time. Every time I say, please, blue God, please protect all innocent beings. Please rescue all innocent beings that are in a bad situation. Rescue every caged being. It is cruel to incarcerate a living being. If you put a plant into a little greenhouse and lock the door, the plant obviously doesn't understand what it means to lock that door. The plant always is only about, I'm here in the now, I have soil in between my roots, I have water, I have nutrients, I have sunlight, and that's all I need in this moment. I like to have company. Yes, a plant thinks that, feels that. It's not a thinking process like this here with neurons, with brain neurons and all of this. No, they don't have a central nervous system. They don't feel terrible discomfort or pain, but they feel things. They feel some things. I don't know how far this goes, but I think it goes pretty far, what they feel and sense. But it's not some kind of abstract way of thinking or pondering over things, or they don't have fear. There is no fear because there is no amygdala hippocampus loop happening, okay, which is happening in a mammal brain, okay, and some other genii of the animal world, okay. So octopus, for example, real interesting evolution, all of this. What's really interesting for me to see is it doesn't matter how a living being starts out. That could be from scratch on another planet. If they reach a certain level of sentient brain, a large sentient brain, it wouldn't matter who they are, how different they are from others. If they reach the same sentience at some point through evolution, then they will be able to communicate with another one of a completely different species that comes from a completely different root race or root origin. Okay. They will be able to communicate, and they will be able to understand each other, because the intellect is not something that pertains only to this or that species. Okay, it's the intellect is a para-species phenomenon. Okay, if we want to call it that. So it happens, it evolves. And once that intellectual capacity is high and they meet one from another star or planet, or they meet one deep in the ocean, okay, that they have their common ancestor, where our common ancestor with an octopus is a fluke worm in the ocean, a little fluke worm that propels its way forward through wave motion. Okay, so that's our common ancestor with the octopus. That's how far the evolution goes back, and if you want to meet our common ancestor, then that's where the common ancestor is, and then it split off from there. It branched off. Okay. Our lineage branched off into fish, then into amphibians, and in this direction. The other branched off into cuttlefish and squid and more evolved octopi, until they reach the giant octopus in the ocean that can pull down a big ship. And they have massive brains. Okay, so if we can find some kind of communication modality that will link us to them, And scientists are working on this, obviously, with whales and other beings. Then what should stand in the way of communication, right? We can explain what it's like to be here on land, and we can show them a little bit so they get an idea. They can come on land for a minute or something, or we can hold them in our arm, show them everything. But then they say, "Ah, no, my retina needs the ocean water. Oh no, my skin needs the ocean water. Please put me back into that ocean pool, aquarium or whatever, you know." And that's cruel. Also, they need to be free. They need to swim long distances. They need to use their muscles to be healthy, to be happy. It's the same applies to all the ocean animals, the whales. Whales are mammals, okay. They evolved from Pachycetos, that's a land animal. So, and our common ancestor with whales are rodent type of animals. Okay, so we're closer to whales than we are to octopus, obviously. Octopi, the plural. So, and then there are other animals that we're yet closer to. Closer related to a lemur than a whale, of course. You know, our common ancestor with the lemur is a tree climbing squirrel type of rodent. Okay, and then it goes on and on and on. You see how it branches out. Okay, all of this. And the human brain is not the smartest brain on Earth. I think there are octopi, there are pies out there in the ocean, intelligent pies, yes, in the ocean. And I think they are smarter than humans, and there are whales that are smarter than humans. And I wonder if elephants are also smarter than humans. But whatever, wherever they evolved, there could be an evolution that doesn't even have a common ancestor with us at all. An evolution from stardust somewhere else, okay, on another planet, in another galaxy. Where their origins have not been seeded on other planets, or have not been, if they have, haven't reached Earth. Let's just say hypothetically. They call that panspermia when there are petrified or frozen microorganisms embedded in meteors, and they've survived this entire travel and land on another planet and get thawed out and are still stable in their DNA and be able to come back to life and get the nutrients they need, and then cause cell division and start a colony. Okay, so a bacterial or just microbial type of colony, and then start from there. So that's called panspermia, if something like this comes from another planet. But let's just hypothesize, and that's a strong possibility that this has been happening throughout vast distances, from one planet to another. But let's just hypothetically say it hasn't reached planet Earth. just to use this example, and that can happen too, of course, where it hasn't reached it. And then, so then this evolution had to completely start from scratch, literally from stardust. Okay. And that happens, okay? And yet, there's an evolution taking place, let's say, on two different planets that have never reached each other, not even through panspermia. And they have started life from stardust, each one of them individually, separated through large, vast distances. And they come to the same evolutionary height of multicellular beings, developing eyes, developing a brain, developing hands, probably very similar to this hand. A skeleton, probably similar to the skeleton. Okay. Legs, feet, probably very similar to our feet. Because it's no coincidence that we evolved the way we did, okay, from a tree climbing lemur animal. So, and beyond, of course, So that was one of that's one animal in our lineage, tree climbing lemur. Long before those Australopithecus afarensis was found, and the other hominids, that the ancient hominids skulls that were found, that are also said to be on our lineage, long before that, because they were already quite large. So like Lucy, for example, which is a prehistoric chimpanzee type of animal. Okay, so no, I'm talking about an animal that is about 2 feet long, including the tail, that is on our lineage. Okay, if you see opossums, you can get an idea on how this tree climbing animal has approximately looked like. So opossums are very, very archaic looking animals. That gives us a glimpse into, they're not on our lineage, but they're a cousin of that. Okay, so it gives us an idea on how these prehistoric animals may have looked like. So, and very interesting to note also that the opossum also looks a little bit like a crocodile, and it tells us that the crocodiles are cousins of opossums, but quite distant, of course. But you see that the shape of the head, and yeah, and then the whales, particularly the ancient whales, also indicate the same shape of the head as well. So a very, very long snout, very long muzzle, and hundreds of teeth, sharp teeth in there. So I don't know, the opossum doesn't have hundreds of teeth, but a lot of teeth and a very long muzzle. Very elongated muzzle. So I notice these parallels, I notice these similarities, and then I wonder if there is some kind of evolutionary relation going on with them in some way. Because opossums have evolved from reptiles, as we all have, okay? We have evolved from reptiles during the Jurassic already, which is 100 million years back, or maybe even longer back than that. And some people say maybe 150 million years back, were the very first transition from reptile to mammal was starting to happen, where the eggshell was more like a placenta, and the whole placenta with the embryo, with the newborn, came out, and that placenta was very easy to break through, and the mother would lick that off and all of that and bite the umbilical cord, and that is already the entry point into the world of mammals. Obviously, everything starts somewhere in a very, very gradual, very, very, very gradual way. That's what evolution is. Then later on, there were incidences, as I already talked about this before, where I strongly, strongly believe, because the evidence points towards it, that there was a Garden Eden project that was conducted by beings that were much, much smarter than we are right now, and of course light years smarter than the ape humans that existed at that time. So ape humans was like take a Neanderthal and you do a morphology with a computer and morph them together with the chimpanzee, that's approximately what this ape human looked like. So the Neanderthals already look very much like we do today, just bigger boned, bigger jaw, but not an ape jaw. So big jaw, very protruded and everything. They all had that at that time. They all had that 50, even just 50,000 years ago. It's amazing. And then since then, I assume there have been another visitation from ETs. So to bring the jaw back, and because if you give it just evolutionary time, it will probably take longer to evolve into the regular, let's say, the person the person in Finland, okay, so with the smaller mouth and the smaller jaw, and the nose narrow and everything, so, and finer boned. So I believe that comes from the ETs. I really strongly believe that. So they spliced that together, and that happened several times. And Dolores Cannon calls these people the keepers of the garden. Okay. Those are ETs, and they come back and they do some more Garden Eden splicing to see, let's nudge them a little bit forward here again. So let's speed up this evolutionary process a little bit. But if this didn't have happened, if this had not happened, then I believe that we would eventually get to the state that we are in right now, with that face, with the jaw back, like the grandmother in the video game. We will get there eventually, but it would take much, much longer. It would take another 100 million years. So, but it doesn't matter. We have time. It's not a matter of time or anything. It had to do with ETs, and they were called fallen angels. Okay, that's where that comes from. So they left their civilization because, I don't know, some of them may have left for different reasons other than being casted out. of their community, their galactic community. But some of them were cast out of the galactic community because they may have broken the galactic community's law. And they said, we are sending you to planet Earth because you need to do some more learning. Okay, you have to do more soul school. And not just in soul form, but in actual form as astronauts. In actual physical form, they were cast down to, and they call it down, it could also be up. There's no up or down or right or left. Cast towards Earth. So the fallen angels came with a spaceship. And they bring their selfish mind state. If they're fallen angels, and some of them may have a little bit of a selfish mind state, they bring that with them, and then they create a dynasty, they create a religion, and they declare themselves as the gods, and they will make us in their image through the Garden Eden project. Okay. So now it took me a long time until I finally understood. Damn. That took me a long time until my eyes were completely open to it. And I heard a lot of things, and I was like, what? And then I saw the reports by Eric von Däniken, and he explained that in absolutely the best way someone can explain this. Okay? And he said to us, all you have to do is you need to replace 2 words in the Bible or in scriptures and so on, or any kind of scripture. Replace the word God with E.T. Replace the word angel with E.T. Replace the word fallen angel with E.T. that was casted out of the galactic community. So that is what is going on. That is what's happening. And then it made perfect sense, because we were told that's brainwashing that was going on. We were told that the human species is like the apex of evolution. Nothing else lives out there like that. And extremely human-centric, extremely selfish, extremely self-centered, extremely speciesist type of brainwashing that has been going on for thousands of years. Okay? For thousands of years. And that has been done deliberately to keep the wider public of Earth ignorant about their origins. And the reason for this, for keeping them ignorant, that was conducted by the underworld people that have very, very high percentage of reptile in them. Now this is the reptilian bloodline that comes from dinosaurs, or maybe different dinosaurs even, but at least from one bipedal dinosaur that looked a little bit like an emu or ostrich. Some animal like it's very similar, but very tall, like an ostrich, or maybe even bigger, with a humongous brain. Okay, and then they evolved. That was not a very far stretch to evolve from that two-legged bird type of dinosaur, okay, without wings, but with little crippled contagon arms on the side. But it had claws. They could claw onto something if they lean forward like this. Then with the large brain, and that brain kept on growing, and obviously doesn't take that far then to go from that shape to the hominid shape. Okay. And that was a parallel evolution. They were not. Our common ancestor with them was, let's say, a very early reptile, very rudimentary prehistoric reptile that is much smaller, and like, what can I compare this to? Like some kind of iguana. Okay, that could be our common ancestor with them. So, small iguana or something. Iguana type or chameleon type of animal. That is our common ancestor, and then it's branched off. One branch went into those bipedal dinosaurs, and the other branched off into little larger dinosaurs, about the size of rabbits, but not very big. And then it branched off from there into mammals, something like that. Okay, so I'm just guessing. This is approximately how it went. But then these reptile animals, they've gotten to the point of humanoid and technological IQ, with arms, fingers, long before us, long. When they got to that stage, our lineage was still in a state of a reptile, a small reptile. Okay, that puts things into perspective a little bit. So that's a vast distance of time. Okay, that they had already had past them. That they had already evolved through, versus the human lineage that was living parallel, that was at that time was a very small reptile. So then these reptiles that evolved from this ostrich dinosaur type, and they don't even know today whether they had feathers or not, and they may have had feathers. They may have had hair of some sort to keep them warmer, right? So we don't know. They find bones, and then they're doing a computer recapturing, remorphing of that individual, but it's just being remorphed into its shape with skin only, or maybe scales, but not with possible feathers or possible hair. So, but then it was more tropical in, let's say, even in Germany, so, or Canada, even in these regions. It was more tropical at that time of the Jurassic. So the climate has changed globally. All of these things come together with that as well. There have been drastic changes over time in terms of where the oceans were located, in terms of where floods happened, in terms of where droughts happened, in terms of where rainforests were happening. So all of this has to be taken into consideration to get an approximate idea how this was evolving. Okay, so, but it makes perfect sense to me now, given that information that I have collected over time from doing research and from watching documentary films. And I don't care if some of these scientists are laughed about or their theory is mocked or what. I don't care. I go by what makes sense, what is very reasonable, okay, how this could have evolved. And that, given the vast differences among humans, so that makes a lot of sense. Okay. So there are people that are extremely selfish, and they have a higher percentage of repto. That's what I think. That's what I believe. And I think maybe there was another gene splicing project, and that happened in the Middle East. Okay, from reptiles done on prehistoric humans. Let's say on the Denisovan, or the ancestors of the Denisovan that lived out there in the Middle East, that were not related yet with the reptiles, but then the reptiles spliced their DNA into it. So that's very possible at different points in time. Okay, that happened several times. So that makes it very difficult to figure all of this out, when this happened and why it happened. And if that happens, this Garden Eden project, whether that's done from highly evolved technological humanoid reptiles, or it's done from ETs that have a completely separate evolution, but also get to that same intellectual level, and they can even communicate with each other. So because it just requires IQ to communicate. So now with the AI reaching this level of a more universal understanding and IQ, then what would stop them from being conscious, right? So why do we have to have intracellular fluid of biology to be the only foundation to give rise to this type of intellectual capacity? Obviously not. Okay, so there could be different ways to get to this intellectual capacity. There could be also waterborne, obviously. It could be living on a gas planet, or it doesn't matter. If it reaches that type of intellectual capacity, it will be able to communicate with another intelligent being. That's very interesting. It's just eye-opening. It makes sense to me now. Okay, it just makes perfect sense. I'm trying to understand the world. I'm trying to understand existence. I want to understand existence. I want to understand myself. I want to understand my own psychology, my own biology, my intercellular activity, and why it's happening, and how is this interacting with the outside world. What's happening in terms of jumping genes? What's happening in terms of turning on or off parts of our DNA? And why is this happening? What outside circumstances are pushing these buttons? I want to understand all of this, okay? I want to understand where some scientists have reached a dead end or reached a self-imposed dead end or reached a point of being puzzled or not being able to look further. I want to understand why that happened, and I want to understand how this came about and what led them to think it stops here and doesn't go further, and what made other people discover it does go further, and what makes other people find out that we have to look somewhere else for this or that, or a comparison, or even an analogy, or pretty close ranging analogy, or far ranging analogy. Okay, so I want to understand all of this so that I can put all of this on the table and then see this is here, this is there, and how's this interconnected, and how did this happen in the past. Okay, so these puzzle pieces, they're coming together now. For me, I don't know about you or anyone. You can laugh about me all you want, right? You, whatever. You can call me clown or tin hatter or conspiracy theorist. Yeah, that is a good one from the corporate agenda. That's a good old gaslighting one, isn't it? Yeah, I don't care. I want to know the truth. I want to know how the pieces are coming together. And they are coming together. Whether the corporate agenda people want this or not, right? It is happening. A lot of people are putting these pieces together now. Not just for sensationalist reasons. They're putting these pieces together because they want to understand where they're coming from and what's going on. For example, we have a reptile brain, but that doesn't have anything to do with the gene splicing that happened later on. We have a reptile brain because we originally evolved from early reptiles. Okay, so he jumped right on my foot. Oh man. So the brain has evolved in a way where it just created one layer of intellectual capacity over the old one. So now we have like 3 basic layers in our brain. We have the brainstem, which is the reptilian brain. This is the rudimentary brain of fight or flight, survival. That kept itself going, okay? And when we are afraid, we're more selfish. We're not attuned to the other. We're too caught up in our own reptile fight or flight. Okay, so that happens all the way through evolution. That stays there. Okay? And then that's maybe kind of in the way of the samadhi inwardness meditation, because we still have this going on. But I want to get into samadhi more in depth, because when we intellectually understand this, and in order to understand that, we have to have the neocortex, obviously. That which is the top layer, but we also have a middle layer, which is the limbic system. Okay, this is more like for the control of our vegetative nervous system and many other functions, of course, too. There are many functions that are happening there. And I think that this discrimination ribbon is somewhere located in that limbic system, in the midbrain. I'm just guessing right now. I don't have very thorough education on the brain or the nervous system. I have a little bit on education on it, but not that vast. Not like my professor, Dr. Monika Pritze in Germany. I mean, she was really on top. She had a PhD in psychology and an MD medical. science and specialized in neuroscience and neurology. So she was really an expert. And she is an expert. I hope she's doing well. So we all looked up to her very much. She's also a known figure in the scientific community worldwide. So that made us all be in awe with her. We beginner students here got to see her and get to listen to her lectures. That was quite amazing. That was really, no, she stands out. That was my favorite professor. So now I learned just a little bit, and it's interesting and I'm intrigued. But then when she said that if you get deeper into neuroscience or even get into the neuroscience part of psychology, the physiological, clinical psychology, then you're dealing with all of this, but you also are forced to work for a year in a science lab. And she said that involves research on monkeys. And when she said that, I was already out the door. I'm like, inside of my head, I was like, okay, that finishes this trajectory of my life. Because there's no way I could do it. If I did that, I would rescue the monkeys on day one of being in this lab. It doesn't matter what brings me to this lab, as an undercover investigator, as a toilet cleaner, as a floor mopper lady, or as a student, or as a graduate student, or as a doctorate degree, already advanced student, right? And now I just need to do this, and then I can do my dissertation work. No, it doesn't matter what I've already done or not done, or how much money I have, how much money I would get from it, or not have, or have already, or will get. It doesn't matter any of this. Offer me billions. I will release the monkeys out of those cages. That's just who I am. Okay, that is the mother animal in me. And someone else probably would say, if I had a boyfriend who is more reptilian, he would say, "You stupid asshole, you have." No, I was relying on you making a lot of money. Now you gave that up. You dumb whatever. And Paul has done that with me in this regard. Okay, when it came to my inheritance situation, he has done these accusations and made fun of me that I said that now I'm free. I don't want their monthly support anymore. If they're mocking me, if I have to take mocking for this monthly support. It was all very difficult psychologically, but in a situation with a rhesus monkey lab or other animals, and I have to even if it's a sea cucumber, which doesn't have that much sentience, but still, I wouldn't want to conduct cruel tests on a sea cucumber either. They use those a lot because what they do is they put ink into the sea cucumber in order to see how a nerve. Paul's talking on the phone. In order to see how a nerve travels. So it's easier to see that through an fMRI with the sea cucumber. I still don't want to do that because I wouldn't want to hurt any living being, whether it's a sea cucumber or a worm or any being. So yes, particularly not a monkey. or a dog. Okay? I mean, that's hell for me. I can't do it. It wouldn't matter what money is involved with this.
Yeah.
Or promises that are made to me, or book publishing promises, or you name it. People go by these things and they get carried away, and then they think, oh, let me just put the blinders on and plow through. And then I have this or what, that degree or that book. No, that doesn't work for me. I can't be bribed. No. And I'm glad, I'd rather be poor. And even if I end up in the ER with terrible pain because we can't afford the heating, I'd rather do that than do tests on animals. That's the truth. I'm giving you the truth. This is how my brain functions. And I'm infinitely grateful to the Blue God to have this amazing, kind, animal mother brain. Okay. I'm infinitely grateful. I would not trade this for anything. Okay. Ever, 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 ever. I'd rather die than be traded or have that removed or destroyed or something. Or end up like a zombie. I'd rather die. I'd rather die than have a brain like Sam Altman. That's a fact. There's no way I could live like that. With a raptor type of brain like this. I would not want to exist. Okay? And I never ever want to be born into a raptor body. Ever. I can't even imagine what that must be like. I mean, that must be so empty. That must be so sad. Because I know that even a reptile wants love, right? But if they don't have a very developed amygdala in the brain, if they don't have the amygdala, hippocampus, prefrontal cortex constellation of understanding and feeling the other, of understanding how the other feels, the mirror effect. So I see the other one mirrored in me, and vice versa. I feel for that other being. If they don't have that, what a horrific starting point. What a horrific existence situation that is. I cannot even understand it. I don't even want to understand it. But I want to understand them in order to feel compassion for them. So, but I think maybe only a reptile type of person can understand another reptile type of person. So it's very difficult for me to understand it. I guess they must be perpetually in this reptile brain, fight or flight. It's this constant thinking of, if I don't take it, someone else will. If I don't do this, then someone else will do that. And I don't even want to say what. This type of war mentality, this type of greed mentality, the taker mentality, the orchestrating taker mentality. No, I want nothing to do with it. I'd rather be dead. There's no way I could ever exist like this, with a brain like that. It would never work. So I'll take the inverted jaw of the grandmother in a video game anytime. I'll take that anytime. If that comes with the dog mom brain, the compassionate brain, then of course I'll take any shape if that comes with the compassionate brain, even if it came as with a crippled body, if that's the only way that brain would appear on earth, with whatever you could be, someone in a wheelchair even, if that's the only way, with crippled little legs or something, or whatever, different body or that is not functional. But if that's the only body that has that caring brain, then I'll choose that existence anytime
Track
over the existence of someone with a reptile brain but a perfect body. Okay. What would be a great example for this?
Yes.
Who can we take as a perfect example for this? I don't even know anyone who has a perfect body, according to my own taste, according to my own criteria that I judge a perfect body. A horse has the perfect body, in my personal view. No, the human does not reach that level of beauty, in my personal view. So, and I know my friend Rita viewed it like this as well, and I know that there are other people that view it this way.
I'm calling about the
and
first
dogs.
order.
Okay, so much more beautiful. So well, let's take my brother, who used to be very good looking. You know, he could have any girl he wanted. He was a model for a while, but his brain has atrophied amygdala. I would never ever want to be in a situation like that. Or let's take a female example in order to understand it better from my point of view. Let's say I take his gold digger girlfriend who looks flawless, model and incredibly stunning looking, and sexy too.
I would like to track another order.
Blonde, tall. I think she has blue eyes. Real athletic, slender, great body build, also feminine shape. But ice cold. Ice cold. She probably told my brother to hire her as their housekeeper. And she may have been the one that poisoned my mother. So you have that body and that brain, that cold brain. Is that what you
number in?
Desire to have? I would rather be dead than have that. I'd rather be dead. So I can't even express in words how infinitely grateful I am for having this brain with extra large amygdala, hippocampus, prefrontal cortex, bulging Frankenstein, to see others, to feel others, to be able to feel remorse, even if it hurts, even if it grinds. Okay, remorse can grind. You can be in bed grinding and cringing every night because you remember you did something wrong in the past. I take that any time over anything else because that is what compassion is about. Okay, I have compassion, and that is the most important thing there is in the world. The most important. And I think the brains out there, they have different shapes, but I believe
I would like to track a different order. I'll punch in the order number.
In brain flexibility. I believe in neuronal plasticity. So I believe that there is a way through meditation to become kinder, to get to feel the other. Okay, so it's all a matter of getting into the meditation. So
I have two orders.
I'm gonna wrap the video up now. Maybe I'll make another part later because he's on the phone now. So peace and love.